Get a bit more. I'm feeling fine.
No, I think you need to get a little more flighty.
Yeah, that's their lives. I'm feeling good. Yeah, I like it.
Mariah, she just came back from the mainland for a visit. She's Melinda's daughter, and she's helping me tonight. Before I start, I've got to make a correction. If you've read the thing on by Confucius and by the quote by Garcia, has everyone seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm changing Confucius to the Muse. And I'm changing Garcia to the Muse. Okay, that's where all my stuff comes from. And this whole production comes from the Muse. China Musion is about a reenactment of a journey I made to China in 1989. It was a short visit, and it happened to be 5 months before the Tiananmen Square incident, which took the lives of many young Chinese students protesting change in China and change in the world. I'm inviting you now to relive that journey with me. It was a bit unusual. And the title, China Musion, means fusion of the arts. So with the exception of the obvious satire, the poetry, the history, and the events that occurred on this journey are true. Like when I was packing for my trip in Otsu, Japan. It was winter in Japan and China. No central heating. Well, I'm almost packed. Guidebook. I have one more thing I want to bring. I want to bring. I have some marijuana to bring. I grew some plants in Otsu, Japan, with seeds smuggled in from an island in Thailand. And using Japanese techniques, I created a 3D geisha face and slipped little packets of pot in back where there was space. I sealed and covered the smell so Chinese and Japanese customs wouldn't tell. I think they would need a good reason to destroy art. Well, I've got passport, visa. I'm ready to start. I'm off to China, and I'm taking a bullet train first to Osaka, and then I'll take a Chinese ship to Shanghai. It takes 3 days. And I'll have a 20-hour train ride to Beijing where I'll stay. No reservations, traveling alone. I can't read, write, or speak Chinese. So I let go of fear, and I'm traveling on the tide of an unknown breeze. So I'm off to China with a specific aim. Some think it or I are a bit insane. But I want to reach China's Great Wall and take a toke of freedom for us all. Entering Shanghai Harbor is like going back in time. Ships and boats of all kinds, ancient and new, yellow and red Chinese flags flying everywhere in view. And customs is inspecting my bag. But I'm not hoisting any paranoid flags, for I know I'm not a criminal in heart, body, or mind. Ganja is a natural plant, an herb, a 5,000-year Chinese vine. not a legal or illegal drug produced by man in secret labs and pharmaceutical factories and companies with side effects that can wreck organs, cause vicious addiction and overdose. The greatest fear I face on this trip by smoking pot in excessive amounts is counting sheep under the China sun and turning my bun into foreign toast. So, I passed inspection, and I'm on Chinese land with a secret plan and a few surprises in hand. We're on the train, and we just left Chufu Station, where Confucius was born, raised, taught, died, and buried. And we're about to cross the Yellow River, where legend tells us the Chinese were born from the Yellow River 10,000 BC. Also, Xi'an, or then Chang'an, was where emperors of China ruled for over 1,000 years. And this is also the entry point to the Silk Road, which led to France and the Roman Empire. That's the road that Marco Polo and other explorers took. So, we're traveling through a very historic area in China. We have this long train ride. So let's amuse ourselves with a little of its lesser-known, provocative history. Xi'an is also the origin of the Yellow Emperor and his wife, the Silk Goddess. I have a poem about her. The Yellow Emperor's wife one day, while standing under a mulberry tree and while holding her cup, a few silkworms fell in her teeth. Silk Goddess became her new name because that's how silk was born. A 2,000-year history secret held, until the rest of the world came informed. The lovely Silk Goddess one day, while taking her usual stroll, noticed the footprints of chickens, and that's how Chinese writing unfolds. I'm going to focus on 3 historic characters from this area in Chinese history that had a huge impact. One is the first emperor of China. The second is the first and only female emperor of China, and the philosopher Confucius. Now, these 2 emperors ruled from Xi'an, and they despised Confucius. And you're going to learn why before we reach Beijing. But from Chufu, Confucius received transmissions for a social order to achieve harmony and peace in the world. Here are some of his better-known quotes. Everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it. Wherever you go, go with your heart. Choose work you love, and you will never have to work another day in your life. Before you begin a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. Do not be concerned about others not appreciating you. Be concerned about your not appreciating others. Choice of government officials must be based on merit and not birth. Our greatest glory is not succeeding, but rising every time we fail. But I could go on reading some of his quotes, but let's make it a little more interesting. When I take out this chair, and close the screen, we have a time machine. Very good. Now this is a Model 20 Dragon. It has automatic voice recognition, so it converts any language, ancient and old and new or whatever, to modified English. So this is the control module, and I'm going to set this to 480 BC. And we're going to bring Confucius here to hear some of his lesser-known quotes. I'm going to plug it in. Stand by. I am Condé. I see myself more as a transmitter and not a creator. I write nothing down, so you must record these teachings if they are to persevere. Today's lesson is about order of obedience in society and family. Let us begin. All the land and all the people belong to the emperor. The father must respect the superior. The son must respect the father. And the daughter must obey the father, then the husband, and later the son. A man may remarry, a woman may not. Women's greatest duty is to produce a son. Women are to be led, to follow. Only the uneducated woman is virtuous. And only the woman without talent has merit. Disorder does not rain down from heaven. It is produced by women. Now for peace and harmony, let us eat cat this summer to stay cool. Let us eat dog to stay warm. And let us eat snake for virility. These are all the teachings I have for today. I'm sure they will never be remembered. I have a secret. Confucius's wife had a poem to read, and he would not let her read it. Ooh, I forgot to unplug. Yeah. And he would not let her read the poem. So I'm going to set the time machine to 470, 1 year after the death of Confucius, and we're going to let her read her poem. Stand by. I am Chikan, the wife of Sun BC. I bore him 2 daughters and a male heir. And the egotistical bastard was a terror. Our marriage was arranged. The pompous ass was insane. I had no choice. He had the only voice. We had to live by his stubborn rules and ways. No takeout, no eating out day after day. His meat and veggies had to be cut and diced and sliced in exact same sizes and design. And he was obsessed with rituals and ceremonies of ancient times. He would only eat perfectly tinted rice. He wanted a perfect doormat for a wife. And his mat had to be a certain distance from the table and parallel to it, or he would not even sit. I gave up after 4 years and split. Oh. Well, after she dumped him, he continued to support the ancient patriarchal system and became a devoted woman hater. Now, were his teachings remembered? Listen to this poem. By nearby spring, Confucius hears. Ideas on social form appear. Receptive to reform is how these teachings were born. He traveled and he taught many students and peers, traveled far and taught for years. A few emperors liked, most were torn, that left the wanderer forlorn at nearby spring. Over 1,000 years in tears for his teachings to persevere. Changing of China caused great storms. Then accepted as Asian norm. Transmissions to this man at nearby spring. Now, the first emperor of China ruled for 300 years after the death of Confucius. Let's meet him. I'm going to set the time machine to 220 BC. I am the first emperor of China. And the reign of China begins with my reign. The history begins with my reign. So burn all the books in the kingdom. And those who do not conform, execute them. I want all of Confucius' teachings burned except one. All the land and all the people belong to me, the emperor. Confucius would have me kowtowing to my subjects, treating them with compassion and kindness. I rule with fear and law, or I lose my empire. I shall need 1,000,000 men to create the Great Wall. So I will create excessive laws to fill the prisons and send the inmates to the north. And I need 500,000 men to build my tomb, should I not achieve immortality. And it must be the biggest and the grandest tomb in the world. Well, let's hear a poem about his reign, the Yin-Yang reign. The first emperor was independently strong. He beheaded and buried alive those who would not follow. He started the Great Wall, the longest graveyard in the world. He wanted the biggest tomb in the world. Palace women without sons were buried alive with him in the tomb after he died. He established standards for currency, language, and measure. And he executed or imprisoned those who would not conform. He wanted the history of China to begin with his reign. He burned the books in the kingdom. And he buried alive 460 Confucius scholars. The name China came from his name, Qin. And his reign is called the cruelest tyranny in the history of China. What about his tomb? It was rediscovered in 1974. It's estimated to be 500 acres. Let's hear a poem about his tomb, which was given to us by the earliest historian of China, and I converted it to this poem. the first emperor in copper casket, on dragon-like boat on a sea, studded with gems and jewels glimmering beneath pearled ceilings where stars, moon, and sun be. Amidst miniature kingdom cities, palaces and pavilions glitter with gold, rivers, oceans, lakes filled with mercury, his regal underground heaven unfolds. In the streets, life-size clay courtesans, they dance and perform music, and birds and animals of bronze roam sky and land. Horse chariots carry guards in uniform. 8,000 terracotta clay soldiers guard the inner chambers of this tomb of the dead emperor's ego. The man who gave us the description of this famous tomb had a terrible thing happen to him in his life. So we're going to bring him here and let him explain it to us. I'm going to set the time machine to 110 AD. I am Shiva son of Sima Tan. My father began recording the Chinese history during the Han Dynasty. He asked me to continue when he died. So I wrote with brush and ink on pieces of silk, on bamboo, and then marijuana paper when it was invented in 105. And then I made a terrible mistake. I questioned the decision of an emperor, and he became enraged and sentenced me to death. Now, my only escape from death is money or castration. I have no money, and the thought of castration frightens me terribly. So I use a curved knife, and they whack off both balls and penis with one horrific stroke. I could die anyway from shock, infection, bleeding. Death sounds better. Or does it? Well, I'm going to set the time machine to one day later, and we're going to see what his decision was, the historical. But in the meantime, I have a poem that I want to ponder. It's what if this was a Western man's dilemma? And I picked a British model because they invented most of the words used in this poem. Americans contributed a few. Unfortunately, I didn't contribute any. So, if a Britisher is suddenly given that choice, death or castration? Death or castration? My family jewels? Preposterous! You must be joking. No. Well, I'm a member of the Order of the Garter. Can't we have a chat? Right. Well, righto. I do believe my thing down there might look for a suitable spot to disappear. My little wiggly woody soldier has been my oldest and staunchest friend and partner. My wicked wild Willie could find a decent or pippy place to disappear. But my Long John Silver has taken me halfway around the world. I suspect my tenacious tollywalker will find a clever way to disappear. I mean, without my piccolo, or rod, or staff, or power drill, or jackhammer, or pocket rockets, who am I? My giggle stick, or dick, or prick, or pekka, will find a discriminate domain to disappear. I mean, cockless. I'd be a bloody eunuch with no romantic hope. My lucky, lovely lollipop will find a cozy and comfortable shelter to disappear. I mean, I adore my little Frankie Frankfurter, and I do believe he fancies me as well. I insist. My one-eyed trouser snake must beg, borrow, or steal anywhere, any place, somewhere, so I can disappear. I mean, Captain Winky, listen, with no place, nowhere to go. My God. My super-secret agent hosepipe will spot a secret sign instructing him precisely where to go to disappear. I mean, my God, no man, no woman, I would absolutely, positively die if my magic wand or joystick could not find one little bit of a spot to disappear. That's my answer to the vagina dialogue. Monologue. Okay. I'm going to set the time machine. One day later, we're going to find out what Sima Xian's famous decision was. Hang on. If I had chosen death, I wouldn't have finished the historical records. Very few people know that China had a female emperor. The only one. And she ruled China. She wasn't Empress Dowager like the mother of the last emperor. She ruled. Let's meet her now. I'm going to set the time machine to 1,000 years after Confucius' death. 690. I wonder what happened. She didn't say anything. Let me see. Huh. She left the scroll. Let's see. Says, I do not speak in public. This is my statement. Well, it's totally inappropriate for a male to be reading the first female's statement. So can I have some woman in the audience that will read her statement for me, or for us? Who? Please, Mystery. Give her a hand.
I do not speak in public. This is my statement. Wu Zutian. I am Wu Zutian. I was born in 624 AD, and at the age of 14, I was sold into prostitution in the harem of the emperor. Although many have criticized my use of sexuality, manipulation, exile, and murder when necessary, to rise to the top of the Chinese Empire, I felt myself totally justified. Women have been held back too long. I totally reject Kong Fi, whose teachings have oppressed women for 1,000 years. Only a female ruler would give women a sense of equality and the same rights as men to pursue their dreams. It is true that I have been vicious to my enemies, but that is the Chinese way. It always has been. If you do not suppress opposition, it will overthrow you. That is how all the dynasties before me have ended.
Thank you very much. Let's hear about her reign. Emperor Wu Zetian Emperor Wu Zetian ruled for 15 years in China's long history. Freed women from forced slavery and tears. Equality is not a mystery. Many women learned to read and write, to divorce, own land, have career, be free, live in harmony with equitude and sight. Then, equality was long expected, and for a short while, Chinese women had equal rights. Then many were lost when she was rejected, and all freedoms were lost when the Han Dynasty fell. Women buried their liberty bells, but she planted songs in every woman to sing and to know her history to retell. Now this is where we take an intermission of 10 minutes, or is that right? But shortly after the reign of the first emperor, the first female emperor of China, was when foot binding of children of China began. Now I'm getting a little hungry, so I'm going to try the diner, and I'll keep telling you about the history of the women that were bound in China. English menu, I'm lucky. The natural club feet of an emperor's wife became a symbol of beauty, a desirable fashion. I'll have the Peking duck stuffed with almonds and fried peacock eggs and scrambled dog tails. Foot binding began with the elite in the wealthiest of homes. It was a symbol of freedom from manual labor and a status system for the husband. Let's see. And I'll have the bamboo shoot, cat ears, and monkey brains on fried rice and dan noodles. I want the whale sperm dressing. The idea spread throughout China. 2 billion children without choice were bound over the next 800 years. It became a way to control women. What's in the Buddha delight? Sweetened lotus blossoms, dragon fruit, elephant eyeballs, grated parrot beaks, and chopped tiger penis? I think I'll pass on that. And most of the bound women of China were not free from manual labor. They spent their lives in continuous pain. And for dessert, I want the goji berries with seasoned rat sauce and deep-fried black widows topped with sugared centipedes. And don't forget the chocolate syrup. And don't forget the boiled water. I have a poem. It's entitled Ling Ling. Ling Ling is now 4 years old. It's time to bind her feet, we're told. First, soak her extremities, and then break her feet, and curl the toes under broken arch, and repeat. Re-soak and rebind many times until her foot is half its size at her prime. They look like high heels when they're done. Husband's bride cannot run. You know, we're almost to Beijing, and I'm getting excited because I want to go to Forbidden City, and I want to go to, of course, the Great Wall. Now, Genghis Khan in 1126 overthrew the Sung dynasty and established the first non-Chinese empire in China. I have a poem about Peking. Genghis Khan defeated and united the Mongol clans, overcame the Great Wall, and defeated the Chinese. His nephew Kublai Khan ruled the largest of nations and built the first palace after Peking was seized. Forbidden City replaced the first palace in 1403, built by thousands of enslaved Chinese males. It survived fires in the Qing and Ming dynasties, burning some of its history of bloody tales. In 1911, China's monarchy ended when Sun Yat-sen overthrew the last dynasty. The palace today is publicly shown, displays Chinese imperial history. In 1949, Mao Zedong overthrew the Kuomintang forces and established the People's Republic of China, freeing many Chinese, liberating them from the feudal warlords and the land barons. I have a poem about him. He ruled the land with an iron hand. Individual rights were not aspired. Millions expired throughout the land. Chinese freed from slavery as planned. Forced the feudal warlords, the cruel feudal warlords, to retire. Millions expired throughout the land. Inequality is what he damned. He ruled with fear, violence, and fire. Millions expired throughout the land. Foot binding of women banned. Women's equal rights he inspired. He ruled the land with an iron hand. He let his name be enshrined by fans. Let the gang of four rule when he tired. Millions expired throughout the land. Human rights were buried in sand. He could have retired violence and fire. He ruled the land with an iron hand, and millions of Chinese expired throughout the land. Well, we're in Beijing. I've been to Forbidden City, and now, let's see, where's my hat? I don't see it. Took a train to the Great Wall. And I have a poem. I'm standing alone on China's Great Wall, ready to break an ignorant international drug law. I'm going to get stoned on stone, and I stand tall. I can see this section of wall for miles. It's the last thing seen on shuttle space trials. I sense its ancient history and sigh, and then smile and take another puff. and see beyond what my eyes can see. I reached my goal. I feel as free as I could ever be. And I've given the Great Wall of China some hippie history.
To say the least. Yeah.
You're gone. That'll fill up the space. The next thing that happened actually happened too. I was on the train. It was night, and I'm going back to Shanghai. I was in my berth and something jolted me alert. A desire stronger than sexual fire filled my mind with a writing desire. The light in the aisle urged me to the floor. I cannot resist. It's like lovers' first kiss. No time for contact lens. I need my guidebook and pen. And with a nose to the pages, I start writing and writing and writing. I'm filling spaces and margins and spaces. My mind races. I write and I write and I write. There's no end in sight. I try to stop and I cannot. I have lost control of my mind. It's like I've crossed over some invisible line. And I continue to write and write. No end in sight. Then the train stops at a station, ending this frantic sensation. And as this writing urge wanes, I start to feel more myself, more sane. I want to write down the station name before the train leaves again, and then crawl back to my empty bed, to an empty and spacey head. I rented this college dorm in Shanghai tonight. My mind's still whirling in questions and confusion. I'm checking the guidebook to find out which station I was near when I had this temporary insanity. I found it. I was at Chufu, where Confucius received transmissions for a social order in 500 BC. The transmissions in this guidebook are for a social order for the entire world, beginning now, or until collective consciousness demands. The words in this guidebook talk of a new world without nations, borders, or wars. On earth without cash, banks, insurance, or taxes. A renewed earth where its resources are not being used for military explosions and business competition, profiting just a few. An earth to be shared by all its citizens. And a solution to ending prisons and slavery and poverty and unnecessary fear. And a world without cultures that can violate the individual rights of humans. But, well, it's the age of equitude. The Aquarian age unfolding now individually and exponentially. But rather than just talk about it, let's go to the time machine one more time to the future. We're going to go to the 22nd century and see what the structure in the guidebook looks like. And plug it in. Welcome to the Worldwide Library. Your library owns everything from books to castles. And your free library card entitles you to borrow anything anywhere in the world with computer credits. Now, your library card also entitles you to essential food, shelter, water, clothing, medical, information, and transportation and protection. Now, for these entitlements, you work 1 day a week at the library. Now, if you want more than the essentials at different times in your life, you put more time into the library, built-in incentives. Now, I have time for a few questions. Can I have a question?
Yes, are you a robot?
Yes, I am. I'm a Model 8. I come with simulated emotions and simulated human skin response, and I have 8 senses, and I am the first robot with a fully functional male extension. And there's a chip. If you plug in the chip, you can change my color, feature, size. Can I have another question? Yes.
What about love?
Love. I've got to talk about that after. I need another question. I love how close.
What politician or leader runs the library?
There are no politicians or leaders in the 22nd century.
So who does run the library?
I will cover that in a minute. I'm happy for these exciting questions. But since the quantum shift in the last century, all thinking has gone from vertical to horizontal. So everyone is now their own representative in the first pure democracy in modern history. Bosses, for example, are no longer ordering anyone around. They're simply coordinators with one vote, same as everyone else. Now, your question was, who runs the library?
Yes.
Only women do. And when it was learned in the last century, and it was accepted finally, that women's brains are hardwired with certain skills superior to men, such as communication ability, agility, the ability to form deep relationships, the ability to diffuse conflict, and psychic powers. And because the woman has a larger corpus callosum connecting the left and right hemispheres, and because their brains are smaller, more compact, and efficient, they can process things more quickly. And because a male can go from a smile to a fist fight in 3 seconds, and most importantly and lastly, because women are not equipped with tenacious pollywhackers, they are the obvious choice to run the Worldwide Library system. Now, Melinda had a question. Love. What about love in the 22nd century? Well, women are very busy. They haven't got time for clinging males with sexual insecurities and hang-ups and mother issues. So if they get horny, they just open up their toy box and take me out. I am designed to program every desire without judgments or demands. I come with clitoral attachments and a switch that can alter size, color, shape, and size. Now, if you want more than that, I mean, I don't know what else a woman wants, but if you want more than that, listen to my final poem. It's a rhyming tanka. Seasons have changed in the 22nd century. Seasons have changed. Equality was attained. Real love remains. When natural human nature balanced, real love cannot change. Thank you very much. I've got all of you to thank for this, and I want to acknowledge Lawrence, Marette, Mariah, Melinda, all of you, Mr. all of you. You made this thing for me. Thank you very much. It's a hand. I had a poem, a limerick about poor Sima Xian, the historian. Yeah. There was a man named Xian. He was the greatest historian in the land. He gave up his perk to finish his work and forget that he once was a man.